The sky above Xarn was the color of old blood. Dark red clouds churned above the arena, reflecting the mood of the thousands of Xarn citizens who had gathered for the spectacle. They banged their clawed fists against stone bleachers, demanding punishment, justice as they called it. In the center of the Colosseum, bound to a rusted iron post, stood Captain Elara Voss, her face bruised but unbowed. Chains bit into her wrists and ankles, but her spine was straight. Her coalition uniform was tattered, but her gaze was sharp, eyes like twin blades. A booming voice echoed through the stadium, magnified by alien tech. "Behold, the human filth who dared sow rebellion among our slaves. Behold, the spy who claimed peace and delivered subversion." The crowd howled as High Marshal Krezek descended into the arena. Towering at nearly 10 feet, he wore ceremonial black armor laced with silver bones, the trophies of fallen enemies. His 4 arms gleamed with jagged rings, each one soaked in history and blood. Elara didn't flinch as he approached. Even with blood crusted along her temple and pain radiating from her ribs, she kept her eyes locked on him. "You were warned," Krezek hissed, lowering his tusked face near hers. "This sector belongs to the Xarn. You humans forget your place." "We don't have one," Elara rasped, smiling with cracked lips. "That's what scares you," he snarled. Without another word, he turned and raised a massive, curved blade forged from obsidian steel. "For her crimes against the Dominion," he roared, "we take her sword arm, so she may never raise a weapon again." The crowd erupted. Elara closed her eyes briefly, breathing in the scent of ash, of old blood, of fear, but not her own. The guards wrenched her left arm out, strapping it to a slab of stone. The executioner stepped forward, a Xarn with cold eyes and a heavy blade. Elara looked skyward. She thought of Earth, not the cities but the forests, the wind, the sound of rain. She thought of her brother's smile, her mother's hands. She thought of peace, and then remembered why it had to be protected. The blade came down. Agony unlike anything she'd ever known surged through her. Her vision swam with light and dark. Her knees buckled, breath left her, but she did not scream. She would not. When Elara awoke, she was in chains again, this time in a pit beneath the Colosseum, her arm hastily cauterized, left wrapped in dirty bandages. She could barely move. A soft shuffling broke the silence. From the shadows, a pair of glowing green eyes appeared. A small creature emerged, a Torvak, one of the enslaved races of the Dominion. It was hunched and wiry, with trembling fingers and deep scars etched into its hide. "I saw what they did," the creature whispered. "You didn't cry." Elara turned her head slowly. Her voice was barely audible. "What's your name?" "I am no one," it said, "but I can help you. We are many down here. You've given us something we forgot." "Hope," she guessed. It nodded. More shadows moved. Elara saw other shapes now. Aliens, battered and afraid, yet watching her as if she were something more than flesh and blood. "We will get you out," the Torvak said. "You will return. And next time, they will not cut, they will bleed." Elara looked down at the stump where her hand used to be. A wave of rage swelled in her chest, pure, burning, cold at the edges. "No," she whispered. "They won't bleed." She met the Torvak's eyes. "They'll burn." Elara Voss awoke to darkness, cool, damp, and far too quiet. Pain flared from the stump of her left arm, but it no longer throbbed with the white-hot agony of a fresh wound. Something had changed. She tried to sit up, but was gently restrained by several alien hands. "Easy," said a calm voice. "You were unconscious for 6 days. Infection nearly claimed you, but we kept you alive." Elara blinked into the low glow of artificial lighting. She was no longer in a prison pit. The air smelled cleaner, filtered. The floor beneath her was metallic. Medical instruments hummed quietly in the background. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "A rebel haven," replied the same voice, belonging to a tall, cybernetically enhanced Valkyrie female. Her skin shimmered like obsidian, and her eyes flickered with augmented light. "My name is Dr. Kalora. You're deep beneath the mines of Xarn. Xarn scanners can't detect us down here. Others stood behind her. Species Elara had only seen in files or during peacekeeping missions. All scarred, all marked by Xarn oppression. You're lucky we found you when we did, Elara continued. You were half dead, but your spirit still fighting. Elara nodded weakly. They took my hand, and we'll give you something better. The next few weeks passed in a blur of pain, rehabilitation, and silent fury. Elara and her tech priests worked on a new limb. Not just a replacement, an evolution. They called it the Eris Blade, named after an ancient human goddess of strife. Forged from salvaged Xarn alloys and human nanofiber tech, it fused directly into Elara's nervous system. Instead of fingers, it bore a retractable sword, thin as a scalpel, deadly as hell. It could shift forms, serrated for cutting, curved for slicing, even extend outward into a whip-like arc of vibrating energy. Every motion obeyed her thoughts as if it had always been part of her. When she first activated it, a dozen rebels watched in reverent silence. You gave yourself a sword for a hand, muttered one of the young warriors. No, Elara said quietly. They did. I just accepted the gift. Training began the next day. She pushed herself to exhaustion. Her balance had to be recalibrated, reflexes reprogrammed. Every strike with the blade arm needed control. She sparred with all types, four-armed Bratak brutes, swift Cillians, teleporting Darn assassins. Each session left her bleeding, sore, but stronger. Faster, more dangerous. She didn't speak much during those days. She didn't need to. Her determination became legend underground. They began calling her the Flame-Handed One. Late one night, Elara entered the gym and found Elara hammering a reinforced target dummy with a blur of slashes. You know, the doctor said gently, you don't have to be the one to strike back. Elara didn't stop. They made me kneel. They cut me like I was nothing, she growled. If I leave this to someone else, what message does that send? That humans are not gods. Elara turned. Sweat gleamed on her brow, and her new blade arm was glowing faintly with residual heat. No, she said, that humans do not forget. As word spread of Elara's survival, rebel cells across Xarn began to stir. Her recovery sparked something ancient and primal in them, hope wrapped in vengeance. Maps were drawn. Weaknesses in Xarn patrol routes were marked. Communications were intercepted. Outposts isolated. Targets identified. But the first mission was simple. We hit the supply depot outside the city, Elara told the gathered war council. Fuel, food, weapons. We take it. We don't run. We leave messages behind. What kind of messages? Asked the Cillian sniper. Elara flexed her arm. The blade hissed into place with a metallic whisper. I'll write them in Xarn blood. The council fell silent. Then, slowly, the aliens nodded. The mission was approved. Elara stood at the edge of their war map, her eyes locked on the red icon that marked Krezik's fortress at the center of the region. It pulsed like a heart. I'm coming for you, she whispered. Not to fight, to finish. The desert wind howled across the black cliffs of Xarn. The Xarn patrol didn't see it coming. Elara Voss dropped from the cliffs like a shadow wrapped in steel. Her prosthetic blade sang as it split the lead warrior's chest open in a single, precise arc. The others barely had time to scream before the rebels surged from the rocks behind her. Swift, silent, merciless. When it was done, 7 Xarn lay dead, and the rebel strike force vanished before alarm drones could scan the area. This was the third patrol ambushed in as many days. Across the region, Xarn supply depots exploded, communication towers crumbled, and armored transports vanished without trace. The Dominion called it insurgency. The oppressed called it the uprising, and they followed one name, Elara. Inside the subterranean rebel command chamber, Elara stood before a fractured holomap. Glowing red zones marked Xarn-controlled territory. Yellow flares blinked where rebel units had scored victories. We've isolated the entire northern corridor, she said, pointing with her blade. Krezik's fortress is vulnerable. He knows it. That's why he's been rerouting troops from the capital. Which gives us a window, growled Bratak Commander Rurk. A small one. Elara nodded. Then we break the gates wide open. Someone scoffed from a corner. It was Vinnick, a grizzled rebel tactician. You speak of war like it's personal. She turned to him. It is. Silence followed. No one questioned her after that. That night, alone in her quarters, Elara sat with her left arm extended. The blade was retracted. She rotated the joint, listening to the soft hum of its internal motor. It no longer felt foreign. It felt right. She remembered Earth's diplomats urging restraint. The Coalition's orders had been to observe, not interfere. But she had seen the Xarn's camps, the children in cages, the villages burned for disobedience. And she had acted, and they had taken her hand. Elara stared into the metal, her reflection sharp and angular. You made a mistake, she whispered. You didn't kill me. At dawn, the assault began. Under cover of a sandstorm, 3 rebel columns surged across the outer defenses of Fortress Krezk. From the east, aerial drones disabled anti-air batteries. From the south, burrowing miners collapsed subterranean watchposts. And from the west came Elara, blade drawn, armor patched, eyes burning with cold fire. She moved through the outer wall like lightning, her sword arm carving through Xarn soldiers with surgical elegance. Her body twisted and danced, striking, blocking, killing. Every movement told a story. You should have finished me. You should not have underestimated me. You should have feared what I'd become. Rebel breach on Sector 4, shouted a Xarn officer into the comms. It's her, the human, the one-handed general. Krezk, watching from the upper tower, snarled. His claws tore through the stone railing in frustration. He'd ordered her execution to send a message to all species. The humans were nothing. And now, she was a myth spreading like wildfire. Seal the gates. Prepare the Malborn Guard. I'll face her myself, if I must. Behind him, servants trembled. Elara stormed the inner courtyard alone. Bodies lay strewn behind her. Her rebels were pressing forward through the breach, but this path, was hers to walk alone. The Malborn Guard waited, massive, elite warriors in obsidian armor. 6 of them. They charged. She didn't stop. Her blade shifted into whip form, slicing 2 apart before the others reached her. She ducked under a hammer blow, drove her elbow into a throat, spun, and drove her blade through another's visor. Blood and sparks flew. She moved like the vengeance of gods, unstoppable, elegant, ruthless. When the 6th guard collapsed in a heap of molten armor, she stepped over the body without breaking stride. Krezk stood at the top of the obsidian stairs, watching. You came back, he growled. I said I would, Elara replied. You came for revenge. No, she said, her blade extended fully with a hiss. I came for justice. The doors to the throne chamber of Fortress Krezk groaned open, their ancient metal edges warped by centuries of blood and war. Dust swirled at Elara's feet as she stepped inside, each footfall echoing with calm finality. Behind her, the sounds of battle faded. Her rebels had pushed deep into the fortress, but no one followed her into this room. This was her path alone. At the far end of the chamber stood High Marshal Krezk, encased in a living suit of armor forged from the carapaces of extinct beasts. Her muscular arms flexed, each gripping a different weapon, 2 swords, a flail, and a hooked spear. His tusks gleamed, his yellow eyes burned. You should have died in the pit, he growled, voice like grinding metal. You should have finished the job, Elara replied. He leapt forward. The impact rattled the chamber. Their weapons clashed, steel against energy, fury against precision. Krezk fought like a beast unleashed. Every swing of his flail shattered stone pillars. His spear sliced air with bone-chilling speed. But Elara was faster, smarter, focused. She ducked a double swing, slashed across his armor, then rolled away from the spear thrust that followed. Her prosthetic sword arm hissed and reshaped mid-strike, becoming serrated to bite deeper into his defenses. You think that blade makes you a warrior? Krezk snarled, swinging wide. No, Elara said, breathing hard. Pain did. She darted forward, striking the joints in his armor. Weak points she'd studied for weeks. Her blade left glowing trails of heat across his torso. Krezk roared and caught her mid-lunge, hurling her across the room. She slammed into a column and fell hard, blood trickling from her mouth. Her blade arm sparked. He stalked toward her, slow and deliberate. "You'll die like the others," he sneered. "Forgotten." Elara spat blood and stood. Wrong again. Their final clash shook the walls. Sparks erupted as blade met blade. Elara twisted under a downward strike, severing one of Krezk's lower arms. He bellowed in rage and struck her with the flat of his flail, sending her skidding backward. Her armor cracked. Pain flared down her ribs. But her eyes were still fire. She charged. A feint, a spin. Her blade slid under his guard and drove deep into his side. Krezk shrieked and staggered. She pressed the attack, cutting across his thighs, his shoulder, carving into the monstrous symbol of Xarn supremacy. Then she struck his hand, the same one that had held the ceremonial blade the day he maimed her. She severed it. The alien dropped to one knee, bleeding and gasping. "Mercy," he choked. Elara stood over him, blade crackling. "You know," she whispered, "I begged you for peace once. You gave me chains. I surrender," he wheezed. She looked down at his trembling form, the severed hand twitching beside him. "Good," she said. Then she cut off his head. Outside, the battle was over. Xarn soldiers lay disarmed, some captured, others fleeing. Rebel banners, once forbidden symbols of hope, rose atop the fortress spires. When Elara emerged, covered in blood and ash, the crowd went silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. She tossed Krezk's severed tusks at the steps. "This is what becomes of tyrants," she declared. Cheers erupted. Shouts in a dozen languages filled the air. Some wept. Others pounded weapons against the ground in salute. She wasn't just a symbol anymore. She was legend. In the days that followed, the fortress became the new rebel capital. The Xarn Dominion began to crumble, their governors abandoning posts, their soldiers deserting. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. The one-handed human came back with a sword. And no mercy. One quiet morning, Elara stood at the edge of the fortress wall, watching the horizon glow with sunrise. Kalora approached. "The council wants to name you general." Elara shook her head. "I'm not a general. I'm not staying." Kalora frowned. "You're leaving?" "There are more like them," Elara said. "More chains to break. More people waiting for someone to rise." She looked down at her sword arm, its polished blade reflecting the dawn. "They cut off my hand," she said softly, "and gave me purpose.